Welcome to my talk show called Allowed to Talk. And today I'm going to continue reading from my book, Who Took My Self-Esteem? Inner Critics Are Like Trolls. Really, they took my self-worth because I felt worthless. I'm going to read Chapter 2 today. And Chapter 2 of Who Took My Self-Esteem is called Inner Critics. Thanks, Mom. Most of the inner critical voices I used to hear were telling me how bad and terrible I am. These critical voices come from the person that is supposed to care for me the most, my very own mother. I was never sure if she loved me, but the one thing my very young mind did know, and was very sure of this, she did not care for me, literally. And this was when I was very young. My mom shamed me when I would have a wet-the-bed accident in their bed. I was terrified of the dark, and one night crawled in bed between them. I wet the bed, and my mom proceeded to scream, "Look what you did!" and mumbled complaints of what I did while she was getting ready for work. Because my parents rarely, if ever, explained anything to me, I used to believe her job was the most important thing in her life. And baking and cooking, too. Surely not me at the time she was screaming about my accident of peeing in their precious mattress. Never allowed to stay overnight at any friends or cousins or anywhere for a while because of my pee accidents. I was finally allowed to stay overnight at one of my older sister's house. I slept in a big double bed in their front guest room. I was about 10 years old at that time. I did not drink anything for a couple of hours before bedtime. I was shocked and terrified at the same time. When I woke up in the bed the next morning, there was a very cold circle of pee under my body. I panicked, and my heart raced as I quickly covered the pee-stained sheets with the top sheet and bedspread. I seriously was hoping in my head, no one will notice if I just make the bed. I was only age 10. I can laugh now about it, but I was not laughing then. I was terrified. I dressed for the day and went out to the kitchen to eat some breakfast. Later that day, I overheard my brother-in-law telling my sister that I made up the spare bed over the circle pea stain. They discussed, why would she do such a thing, and laughed about it. Nobody talked to me about it, and I wasn't about to talk about it at age 10. Somehow, most of my mom's 10 children would never discuss much about anything. They drove me home that day, and we talked and laughed, but I was never invited to stay overnight again. I know that most do not remember life before the age of around 4 years old. I remember being very young and toddling and walking up behind my mother at times and pulling on the hem of her mid-length dress. My mother wore only dresses when I was a youngster. She only wore slacks when she was much older. I wanted to get her attention, any attention, good or bad. Bad attention is better than no attention. I grabbed the back of her dress right near her hem. Instead of attention, I got a forward tumble to the hard kitchen floor. My mom just kept walking as I dropped to the floor. She turned around and gave me the look. "Why are you bothering me?" and kept on preparing the food for the meal she was so graciously providing for whomever. At the age of about under 4, a child does not consider the meal and how many mouths that are needing to be fed. I guess I was just supposed to know. Another thing that convinced me that my mother did not really love and care for me was when it came to cleanliness. I remember standing on the lid of the toilet and my dad soaping my body and rinsing with a warm washcloth. I also remember my dad as the one who would clean my bottom when I had accidents and needed to be washed off. Our only bath was usually on a Saturday night. We just couldn't go to church smelling like a piss cat. So we got our weekly bathing on Saturdays. I remember summers at the very young age where I wore the same clothing without being laundered for weeks. Sometimes in the winter months I would be searching for a pair of socks with no luck. I remember wearing socks until they had a distinct stink and dust when I took them off. The socks almost stood up by themselves. Needless to say, my hair was cut short like a boy's haircut. They called the haircut a pixie. And never did I feel or look like Tinker Bell. Dang, her hair was long and in a bun, so why did they call this haircut a pixie? I looked like a boy. Gross to a 5-year-old girl. For many years, every time we drove across the bridge on Cumberland Street, and I saw a round-shaped thing that looked like a tin can, I believed it was a giant water trough for animals. Who knew? Not me. It was an above-ground swimming pool. I was to be seen and not heard, and apparently never told what things were. I grew up guessing about life a lot. Never explained about the birds and the bees, so I believed that my oldest brother's wife got pregnant because they held hands and she sat on his lap. I wondered how they got that baby inside her belly, and how did she get so fat? They had 4 kids, and some of my older siblings had kids before my 8th grade science class showing a video on the subject of the birds and the bees. I also overheard 2 of my sisters talking about a banana and comparing the banana to a boy's penis. It sparked my interest and scared me too. And how did my mom deal with incest when my one older sister and brother did such? She chose to ignore it. What? My friend Sandy told her mom about her brother's abuse and incest, and her mom did not believe her. To this very day, Sandy struggles with mental health issues, not because of the incest, but because her own mother laughed in her face and did not believe it happened. I get so angry that I want to have a fit of rage. Some of the inner critical voices I heard in my head from my mom are these. You are to be seen and not heard. What is wrong with you? How dumb are you? You have no say. You can't do that. You can't go there. Didn't you learn anything in school today? You were supposed to clean today. How lazy are you? You are talking, singing, and just plain being too loud. Who died and made you the boss? Look what you did now. You are doing that all wrong. Who do you think you are? You are to do what I say and not what I do. You have no reason to be crying. You are exaggerating your pain. That's the end of chapter 2. I'd like to end with singing. Sometimes my camera just shuts off. I'm going to get a new camera, but right now I still have this old camera. I'm going to try to sing, Jesus put a yodel in my soul. Once I was lonely without a goal. Then I left Jesus into my soul. Now I'm happy, I rarely feel low. Jesus put a yodel in my soul. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus set me free. Yodelay, yodelo, yodelay dee.